first of all, let me thank Dr. Shiva and the entire GWFM team for giving me this opportunity, and definitely to all the participants for taking time off from your busy schedules and finding time to attend this session. I'll try and make this interesting and well worth you attending this. So this session will be basically on the evolving workforce in the current new normal. And although it's a very, very vast area to take up in a 1-hour session, I've tried to bring up all the important pieces, especially issues which are related to the new normal, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, so that we know that yes, we are all going through this today and we are experiencing them. It'll be easy for you to relate what we go through. So we will look at workforce trends in the new normal, also the role of workforce management and how it needs to adapt to keep pace with these changes that we're seeing, and also something about how do we build a future-ready workforce, right? So these are 3 key points which we will address as we go through this presentation. And move on. So this is the new normal, right? You must be seeing many such posters all around you, talking about, you should stay at home, wear a mask, wash your hands, maintain at a safe distance, avoid using public transportation, etc., etc., right? So there are various ways in which people are bringing this up through all sorts of media, posters, and whatever way people can communicate, right? The need to vaccinate, etc. So this is something that we're all going through the new normal day in and day out, right? At work, since a new normal, we have also started working both from office and home. These are the representation of how we are managing to keep up with our work. Maybe at the kitchen, at home, even people who've gone back to the office, we need to maintain some safe distancing, maybe leave gap between a desk, things like you need to work in shifts, always have the mask on, use the sanitizer, etc., right? So this is what we are seeing, whether it is the office or your home or any workplace from which you're working, like shared workspace, etc. So this is the new normal as far as our workforce and workplace is concerned. Any questions? Do I move on? So now we'll talk about some key trends in workforce and workforce management. As I said earlier, I picked up areas which are very relevant to the current new normal, and I picked up 6 of them for today's discussion, starting with better employee experiences, diversity and inclusion, growth of the gig economy, globalization, impact of digital transformation, and the importance of compliance. First, better employee experiences. We will cover 4 key areas here: employee engagement, work-life balance, employee well-being, and of course, mental health. We'll start with employee engagement. And it is said that your best workers are often those who are engaged with your business, right? However, it is also true that if your employees aren't engaged, right, their performance generally will suffer and will impact your business, right? And what we have seen is that businesses that demonstrated higher rates of employee engagement, right, before the beginning of the pandemic, generally performed better through the year in spite of the pandemic situation and the economic recession that we are aware of. So the engagement of employees into your organization goes a long way, right, in sort of ensuring that your business grows and does well. Moving on, the next is work-life balance, something I think all of us are aware, and it's not something which is new. However, um, in the current situation, to retain top employees, attract top employees, we will need to find ways and be very, very flexible, right, to ensure that employees have a better work-life balance. And there is no compromise on that. So this is something which everyone understands and they expect. So we will see some ways in which the work-life balance can be provided to employees. As we see here, people sort of spending time with their children, their pets, friends, whenever possible, some holidaying, and of course, in between work, time fine to relax, have your own time, that half an hour or 15 minutes to ensure that you have a good work-life balance, which keeps you happy, right, and also motivated. Next is the employee well-being. These programs not only help improve the health, but of course they will also contribute to increasing your productivity. It also helps in decreasing absenteeism and thereby helps your business, right? These programs, and we've been seeing this in bits and parts all across. However, with the pandemic coming in, it becomes so much more important. Almost all top organizations have organized, vaccination camps and gone a long way to help employees be comfortable. So many times earlier, these programs used to be limited to the employee, but in current times, it has been extended to the entire family, right? So that the problems are not themselves only; they also have worries about, their aging parents, their children and family, and if that is taken care of, it goes a long way to make an employee happy, right? So this is something we need to be mindful of. Mental health, again, not many people may be aware of it or giving importance to it, but in addition to physical health, both mental and emotional health is of supreme importance. And post this pandemic, it is actually on the decline due to so much of stress, concerns, etc. And this is something that needs to be addressed, by the WFM team or the business to ensure, that the person is mentally happy, is able to perform optimally, contribute well, and help the company grow forward. Right? So these are some of the important experiences, employee experiences that we need to take care of from a WFM perspective, I thought. There are a few others, but I picked up because we can't cover everything. So I just took up some of these. Moving to the second trend that we talked about in terms of diversity and inclusion, right? So I think we are all very, very aware, right, that prioritizing these benefits both the employees and the business, right? In fact, if you have diverse teams, they are found to be very productive, and any inclusive sort of companies, people who welcome inclusiveness, generally, they will achieve their goals and objectives due to employee contribution, right? So two very important employee-related issues that the WFM team needs to address. Growth of the gig economy. So I think we are all aware that, in terms of the gig economy, it's basically workers who prefer a temporary or a flexibility in their jobs and not get tied down to permanent employment. And of course, that includes contract sort of a work with your employer or even freelancers, right? And thereby, a gig economy is generally cheaper and also provides more efficient services, right? Employers also have a wider range of applicants to choose from, not being tied down to any geography or any place. Employees who cannot afford to hire full-time, they will also opt for this sort of a employee. Generally, gig workers are likely to work from home to the extent possible, right? Which again helps, right, in terms of cost and efficiency. But yes, gig workers often find that they need to move or take multiple jobs, right, to afford the sort of lifestyle that they may be wanting to, right? So a single job may not fetch them enough. They may need to get into another job to meet their ends or requirements. Also, it's very common for a gig worker to actually radically change careers, right, during his lifetime of working. So this is about the gig economy growth, which after the pandemic has to a large extent accelerated because of its because it is being facilitated through the online and e-commerce. Globalization is another trend which has become popular due to the advanced technologies that we have available now. We're able to literally connect to people across anywhere. Earlier we didn't even think of having workers spread across the world, different time zones. All those barriers have been broken by technology, and hence it's actually become easier for everyone, right, to look for the best person to hire, right, independent of which location he is from, right? So that's globalization. Another key trend is, and a big trend is digital transformation, right? And this helps faster decision making, much increased productivity, and of course, ultimately high job satisfaction, right? Digital transformation has again given birth to the digital workforce, which is nothing but the software robots, right? However, these robots are very efficient and accurate. They don't take vacations or fall sick, and they don't get bored, etc. Scaling up the digital workforce again doesn't mean you have to recruit and train people, right? While even if you have to downsize, right, when you don't have the need for so much of workforce, that you don't really have to put anyone out of a job. So that's the advantage. Best of all, by employing a digital workforce, you allow the human workforce, right, to take up work, which only humans should be doing, and thereby you get, rewarded in many ways. Right? So that's digital transformation as a trend. It's here in a big way, and is going to be bigger and bigger as we go forward. The last one I picked up for today's session is the need for compliance. And during the pandemic, right, we are all aware that some of the work from home policies, etc., companies had to quickly rework, right, to make sure two things. One is that they remain compliant with the local government norms, and also, it should allow the employees to work and be as productive as possible, right? And although the pandemic will sometime go away, however, the need or importance of compliance is here to stay. Any questions for this section on trends, or should I move on? So Shiva, I assume you're able to hear me.
Yes, yes, it's going well, Prabal.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let's continue. Yeah.
Okay. So so with this trends covered, I think we'll take a break for some of those poll questions, Shiva. Maybe you can take off my access and go through the polls now.
Do we have any questions so far? Feel free to ask any questions. Yeah, there's one question. Okay, so someone has asked that, will this slide be made available? Yes, we can make this slide available. Do you have any questions? Anyone who would like to raise your hands to ask any questions? Feel free. Not seeing any questions yet. Yeah, we have a couple of more minutes.
I hope I am not rushing through, but in case you see me rushing through, stop me and I can give you some more time.
Do you have any questions so far? Okay, so Pradeep Kumar has a question. I'm going to unmute him. Hi, Pradeep. You can ask questions to Prabal now.
Hi, first of all, thank you so much for giving the great opportunity to ask the question, and thank you so much for you and the entire team for GWFM for organizing these kind of sessions. That's really helpful for entire people all across the industry as well. So I have a question. Thank you so much, Prabha, for time. So I have a question for my digital transformation and RPA point. Okay. So as we are thinking, and we have almost 100% people are working from home. In that situation, into workforce industry and tools and IT technology point, we don't have any really mechanism to see that how many times people are actually on work or not. They might be making excuse. They might be genuine. There might be a genuine issues, technology issues, breakdown, etc. So how do you see as an opportunity for digital transformation or RPA to do a screen recording analysis, building a speech analytics tools, or maybe next level of automation for development industry and as well as technology point that can help to the great extent to the company and business. Thanks for this.
Are you done?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Very good question. But as I said, digital transformation is here to stay. It's going to really grow big and be all over. Although I have not really been hands-on in this, but I'm aware a lot of work is going on in terms of how a WFM team or a WFM organization can manage the workforce efficiently into situations and areas which you spoke about. And obviously automation is going to play a big role here. Obviously, since we are now in a situation where people can work from anywhere, possibly anytime, the earlier concepts or processes, tools that we used to use to manage the workforce in that environment is not going to work here. This is much more complex, much more spread out, and it will need a lot of digital technology and automation in place to get there. So yes, I mean, I think for people like you, there's a huge opportunity. It's just not, and this I'm talking about only in the WFM area, but I think across industries, across all the fields, I think the digital transformation is just going to sweep through in the coming times.
Yeah, thank you so much. So being into IT, so currently I'm holding responsibility in workforce management and IT as well. So I'm as a working manager IT and transformation technology for WFM. So we are establishing and building some mechanism and tools in this piece. So this is how I want to just get your opinion and your advice how this is gonna be for a work for a long way to the excellence of process and businesses.
Sure. Since I've also been in a similar situation, right? In my past role, maybe we can talk. I can share some of the things that I had in mind or I have done. But I think you are in a good place handling technology and workforce. It's a good position to be in, and you can really, do a lot of things and do wonders. So all the best to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. It was great meeting you. Thank you.
We have a question from Deepa. Okay, so Deepa is asking question. We have seen huge acts, usage, and difficulty for supervisors to support real time. Any best practices you like to share?
Can
Maybe
you just
what should
repeat
I?
that once?
Yeah, we've been seeing very high hacks, usage, and difficulty for supervisors to support real time. So supervisors are finding it very difficulty in managing the virtual talent. So could you share any best practices? How do you really manage? That's one question. Also, she has another question. What kind of gamifications ideas would you suggest for improving real-time monitoring? Deepa, Prabal comes with IT industry where you would not focus on real-time monitoring. Probably you will pick up the questions on the especially on seeing the difficulty of supervisors to manage the talent. So Prabal,
Well,
answer
let me
question.
just respond. Yeah,
Yeah.
let me just respond on that. So Deepa, first of all, I need to understand where you're coming from before I'm able to give you, the right answer. So maybe it will be appropriate if you can ping me and we sort of get into a call. I understand what is your problem, and then see, if I can try and give you some leaders or some solutions based on what issues you're facing. So can we do this offline? Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine. Offline should be fine.
Okay, I'll just make a note of that. Maybe we'll just connect whenever you're free, and we'll spend some time. And first of all, I'll understand what is the issue I have, and then I'll see whether I can give you some guidelines.
Yeah, another
Thank you, Deep.
question from Prabal. How do you manage, supervisors or the managers are finding challenge in managing team members performance, especially like when they're working from home, right? They're not physically present. So could you share any best practices that what should be the better way to manage the team members and also their
So
performance?
yeah, so I am assuming that we do not have things like tools in place, right? So which is why you're coming. I think in the absence of a tool or technology, the way I would go about is to make sure that people are comfortable, and we have seen a lot of examples. Make your people comfortable, make things accessible to them, try and understand what are the issues, give them proactive solutions. If people are happy, if they are motivated, right, they will automatically perform, right? And in most of the industries, it does not matter in terms of how many hours of work you're putting. What matters is what you are giving as an output, right? So if you keep people in the right spirits, happy, motivated, I think the rest will follow.
Thanks, Prabal. Prabal, this is one more question. Since industry is going for some resources working at office and whereas the rest of them working from home, and at the same time, industries are calling back their resources. Now, a lockdown is now closed and everyone has started business as usual. So what do you think that organizations should do to improve their productivity and efficiency? What do you suggest? Do you suggest that they should work 50% or maybe some percentage working from office and rest of them from home, or they should get back to office, or like they all should work from home?
Okay, so first of all, things change from industry to industry, right? So for example, in IT industry, right, we have seen that almost 100% of the people can work from home or work from outside the office. Whereas, say for example, in a manufacturing setup, is just not doable, right? So it depends on which industry you are in. But yes, in a very generic concept, to improve based on the current situation, we have to make sure, that things like, the low touch and ability to work from anywhere, anytime, these concepts need to be enabled using technology, and that is across any industries. And these are some of the very, very important and key things which will help everyone, whether it's IT industry or manufacturing industry or whatever it may be, right? To get much better productivity and at the same time, ensure that the employee is happy, motivated. Does it answer your question?
Just Prabal. Yeah, there's one question from, Rodi. People with co-mobility is high risk, so remain them working from home. Okay, there's, you try to answer the question. People who are on mobility or, on what would be a challenge. So he says that, remain working from home. Okay, you try to answer that one. All right, I don't know. With this, there are no any additional questions. Prabal, you could proceed with the presentation.
Okay, you want to do the poll later on?
Yeah, we can do the poll now. So
Because it's relevant to the last session, so maybe
yeah,
we can do it now.
Absolutely. All right, team. Hope you're able to see the screen, and we can take a quick vote here, participating in the quick poll. Which one is not a gig worker? Part-time worker, contract employee, permanent employee, and freelancer. Could go ahead now. Just touch your screen and try to answer the right one. I see that 32% of them have voted. Can we go on? Let us participate. Let's go ahead, team. Go ahead. Please participate. All right, 57% have been voted. Okay, so we will have a few more seconds to close this. All right. I'll just close the poll and let me share the result. Okay. Hope you're all able to see this. Prabal, are you able to see this?
Yeah.
Okay. So 5% have voted for part-time worker, contract employee 19%, permanent employee 52%, and freelancers 24%. I see that the 52% of them have voted right one, which is the right answer, right? Which is not a gig worker. You want to respond to this poll, Prabal?
Yeah. So 52% is the right answer.
All right. Okay, so can we have the another poll at the end? Probably we'll take that, Prabal, or you want to do this now?
Yeah, it is relevant to the section we covered, so we'll do it now.
Okay. All right, so we have the second one. Quickly, I'm going to just launch it. This is very easy one, friends. Which one is not a workforce trend? You could select one of them: diversity and inclusion, globalization, digitalization, and compliance. Okay, 39%, 43%, 46% have voted. How about remaining ones? Friends, please try voting. Come on. All that you got to do is look at the right answer and touch the screen. You're almost there. 61%. Wonderful. Can you go for a little more? How about others? Can we have your participation, please? 64%. Okay. 68%. Wonderful. People have different perspective and different understanding of this. So we'll close the poll now. 71% of them have voted. Thank you so much for participating. Just closing this and publishing the poll. Prabal, here we have multiple perspective from the participant side. They have voted for 40% for DNI, globalization 15%, digitalization 20%, and compliance. So we see that contributions from everyone out here. Do you like to respond to this?
Yeah, so the correct answer is basically digitization. So digitization is basically things like you convert documents to digital format, or convert something which is analog to digital. That is basically the meaning of digitization. It's not really a trend perspective.
We can thank you so much for all the participants who have participated in the poll answering. Prabal, we can move on with your presentation.
Okay. So we'll move on. The next that we will touch is with respect to workforce management in terms of the roles and strategies for the future. So on the role first, right? So what we are saying is, and this is something very, very important for the team, is basically challenges in attracting and retaining talent, right? And the need to effectively balance quality of service with efficiencies will need a very, very strong and sophisticated workforce management teams as we go along, right? So we need to sort of grow in terms of our capabilities, both in terms of tools and otherwise, because what's coming is going to be very, very challenging and complex to manage in terms of the workforce, right? And we also are seeing, for starters, that workforce managers are evolving into business consultants and operation leaders. So I have been in this situation earlier, and I'm well aware that as workforce managers, things like consulting and operational matters need to be handled by you. So that's something which is coming going forward. The other big challenge that we have, right, is to build a very strong team, right, workforce team, and also have a strong bench in the team, right, so that when people move out from the workforce management team, you're able to quickly fill it up with the people on bench, or it may not be a sitting bench, but with people who can fill that in, or when there's a need, for example, like the business grows and you need to scale up the team, we fill it up with the bench. So we have to be very creative in how we create a WFM bench, because it cannot be a sitting bench, right? So this is one more challenge that we need to address, and we will definitely face as we go along. So from a WFM role perspective, things are really coming and very challenging in our way, and we need to really stand up and face it and do our best, right? Moving to some of the strategies that we need to adopt, right? So the areas remain the same, right? And also the objectives remain the same. So for example, we have to standardization of the process policies. This is there today also, but we need to improvise. Automation of time and attendance tracking wherever not there. Automation of employee scheduling if it is still not there. We need to come out with a lot of employee and manager self-service options, right? Introduce absence management procedures in terms of automation, whatever, but it needs to be done. And of course, what we've seen in the COVID times, we have to be very flexible for remote and mobile working, right? At the same time, we have to keep some pace in mind, as we go along in terms of making sure that we have the right people with the right skills at the right time with the right plan and of course the right cost, right? So we can't ignore that, right? And if organizations are not going to pay attention to this, I don't think they are going to be competitive or survive in the marketplace that's coming up, right? So this is in terms of workforce management strategies that we need to focus on. Another important area is in terms of building a future-ready workforce, right? So very, very important, as you see there, is we need to make sure that as a WFM team or management, we ensure that skills development is of prime important. It should become, the bread and butter, right? So at any point of time or for whatever requirement that comes up, the first thought should be on how do you build up your skill. Gone are those times where when we have a requirement, we go and hire or we bring in someone and fill the requirement. That, as we will go forward, we'll see is not going to happen. Let's see why. So we've seen that there was a huge job loss situation in the pandemic, and of course a lot of economic hardships. But at the same time, we are seeing that immediately after, there are huge open positions which are unfilled, right? Difficult to believe, but it's true, right? So there were so many jobs lost, but at the same time, there are so many open positions which are unfilled. But that's the truth, right? HR, is finding it very tough to fill up critical positions due to lack of skilled people available there, right? And of course, we should not treat this as a temporary problem. It is here to stay. And the gap will grow, right? As I said, this is not something temporary. And the skill gap, where you need critical skills, is going to grow. Open positions are going to be difficult to fill, which is why, as I said earlier, reskilling and skilling is of prime importance. That's the only way we can sort of try and meet the skill gap, right? We'll also see that some of the largest skill match areas, where there are gaps, is in areas where new technologies like automation and AI, etc., are being adopted. And obviously, for these new technologies, there will be a shortage in skill, and it has to be sort of filled with very quick and rapid reskilling activities, right? Whichever industry or sector you may be in. So reskilling for relevance, right? So anyone today, if he has to think of the future, he has to pay prime attention to reskilling if he has to stay relevant, because your current skill, your current expertise is soon going to outgrow, and new technologies, new requirements are going to fall in place. If you don't acquire those skills, your relevance will not be there, right? You'll find it very tough to find a job or be in your job, right? So you have to, adopt skilling, reskilling, whatever age or experience you have to stay relevant in today's marketplace, right? The new trend that we have now seen in terms of how we work is the remote working, work from home during the pandemic. And this is something which has changed and is here to stay, right? It's not going to go away. And we have to sort of build our workforce with this in mind. Something very important, which not too many people have addressed till now, is that we need to move away from, time-bound degrees, right? What I mean to say is that, sort of skilling activity, where new technical skills or new skills need to be adopted. People generally fall back on, institutions or colleges which have a sort of a periodic, maybe annual programs or maybe quarterly or half yearly programs starting on so and so date, ending on so and so date, etc. And this becomes very difficult for people who are on a job today to get into those situations and do it. There are sometimes sort of courses or programs which people schedule during weekends, etc. But it becomes very tough to keep your work-life balance, because the full week you will work, weekends you will study, and that doesn't carry you too far, right? So to move out from there, we need to develop programs that are not time specific, etc. They could be online, or they could be in flexibility where whenever you have some additional time or free time of your own, you put in 2 hours or 3 hours, and it should not be time bound. So maybe someone can finish a course in 3 months, someone may take 1 year, someone may take 6 months. That sort of flexibility should be put into developing new programs to help people skill up into the new technologies and new requirements. So that's the need of the hour. And we as WFM teams need to sort of facilitate that. So that's a very important thing to build up our current workforce, help them get skilled, reskilled, and be relevant. Again, to fill up, this vast gap in skills, one way is, of course, on-the-job training, right? Because it also allows you to not only learn, but also perform the job, and then at the end of it actually be an expert, right? But not everything and all requirements can be fulfilled through this. There are, of course, there are sometimes very huge requirements which suddenly come up, and which is stretched across industries, maybe in a technology area, whatever it is. And these large volume requirements, uh, better than the on-job, we should adopt to the apprenticeship method of training. And to that extent, some of the gaps can be reduced, right, with this sort of a training and skill up. So that's one way to help your workforce train and grow. Last but not the least, we also need to make sure that the leadership also get trained, right? Managers, not only should they know technology, they should also be a role model for the younger workforce, right? In terms of how in today's world, right, we should be continuously skilling up and make it a lifelong journey, right, to stay relevant as we go forward. The days of earlier days are gone, where the need to reskill so quickly was not always there, right? But things are changing very, very quickly now, and unless you are very quickly reskilling, you'll soon not be relevant and difficult to find a job. So with this, basically, I'll go into the conclusion part. I picked up some of the important things we discussed to put this as a conclusion to all of you. And I thought that these are the important things. There could be others, but to me, what will impact the workforce management going forward, these four are very, very important. The first is in terms of improving the employee experience. We went to the 4 different elements there, very important to make sure that the employee experience is taken care of. And of course, in terms of the workforce management, we need to make sure that we grow ourselves into a very strong team, equip ourselves with tools, technologies, processes, whatever not, to face the challenges that are already coming on. So that's again a very important part. Then we talked about the skill part of it. There's going to be a huge skill gap, difficult to fill in the traditional way of hiring and filling and hence a lot of focus needs to go into reskilling, upskilling, and at a very with there today, because this gap is going to grow very, very rapidly as technologies come in, right? And the last one, which is very important, is in a big, big way, we need to make sure that what we call studying, which we now relate to skilling, is not limited to time-bound programs in colleges and institutes, right? We should have programs where people have the flexibility to attend them at any time and without any time bounding them, and this will enable them to skill up even while they are working, and even if they are very, very busy in their work, right? They can find some free time, use that to learn, skill up, and not spoil their work-life balance. So these four I thought is very, very important from this session. I have one more last slide which I'd like you to go through. Is so many things have changed in this pandemic, but what has not changed, right? So if you read the next, workforce management is an art and a science that can be learned and continuously improved. You get better and better at it with innovation and practice, right? And this has not changed. Something like the person playing soccer, right? The same goes to him. There's no substitute to continuous innovation and practice, right? You'll always get better and better, and nothing will change this. So that was the session from me. If you have any further questions, I can take them now, or you can reach out to me whenever convenient. Back to you, Shiva. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Prabal, for fantabulous presentation. It's really very detailed and very insightful learning overall, and also a lot of new elements that you talked about. The one thing that I myself have liked is the skill gap is going to grow. The speed of upskilling and organization's ability to speed of upskilling and adapting to the business and client servicing, and also like the strategy is something very important. Like there's one question here from the audience where they're asking question that there are two aspects to it: build or buy talent. So building talent takes a lot of effort to get the alignment of the future business scenarios, and buying is something that easy. What do you suggest that percentage of buy and build talent percentage as per your perspective, Prabal?
Exactly. So it's there's a scale that is going to change. So earlier times we were used. So yes, I agree. So it's all to do with the scale in terms of in the past we have seen that maybe the percentage of people, right, is much more than the people that we train and deploy. Now that scale has to change and reverse. So in spite of best efforts, in spite of a lot of money being funded in, we are not able to hire. However, we see that it is now maybe it will take a lesser cost and lesser time to maybe train and sort of induct people. So what we're talking about is our past experience, where hiring was comparatively quicker, if not cheaper, than retrain and put them on the job. However, going forward with the huge shortage, definitely retraining is going to be both faster and also a cheaper way than hiring, because we are already seeing that people are not really, in spite of high salaries being offered, things like unheard of hiring bonus, etc., being put on the table, we are not getting the right people, right? So, and this should not stop our growth, it should not stop the business, should not stop the world. The only way this can be sort of gauged or managed is by making sure that we are able to retrain and deploy people, right? Depending on hiring will not go away, but it will come down.
Thanks, Prabal. Do you have any last questions from the audience? We'll allow, if you raise your hand here, you just can unmute you. You could have a direct conversation with Prabal. Anybody wants to ask any questions here? Already got to raise your hand. Click on hand button so that you'll be raising your hand. Okay, Rory says, thank you so much, and for their time and making this relevant during this time. A couple of them are acknowledging. Thank you so much. I think with this, Prabal, we can conclude the session. With this, really appreciate your time that you have taken out for this webinar and the masterclass. I know that a lot of effort has gone in to prepare this, and this is truly relevant to the current market, and also this is the need for the hour. That's what I would say. And a lot of questions have been asked by the audience, and probably we could respond to one of the questions that Deepa has asked for it some time back. I'll share those questions to you. Probably you could have a conversation with that. And with this, thank you so much for your time, Prabal, and also thank you so much for all the audience who have joined in, who have asked questions, and also who have acknowledged for being part of this masterclass. Please stay tuned. Please stay connected with us. Join us on our social media, and you could take a look at the handouts which are given there in the control panel. And if you need any help on the skill sets, learning or an upskilling programs, if you want to join or if you want to join as a member, feel free to reach out to us. We'll get back to us. We'll be able to get back to you on this. With this, thank you so much, Prabal, and everyone who joined in.
Thank you. Thank you all.